Well, folks, the chickens are coming home to roost. I've been trying to caution, to warn, advise the African National Congress-led government of South Africa that it is stepping into deep waters without a life vest. But they just continue to poke the bear. I don't think those two go along very well. The bear is on land. But you get my point. Trying to antagonize the United States, falsely claiming all sorts of things against the United States, when the openly active and aggressive hostile actor in this relationship has been the ANC-led government in South Africa. Going back to 2001, they refused to sign an Article 98 waiver to protect their service members under the Rome Statute, and going forward to a whole host of things, including training Chinese fighter pilots to shoot down NATO aircraft at a South African pilot school, using European and American pilots, no less. The list goes on and on. 70% tariffs against our poultry, bans on our pork, quotas on our cars while you let the Chinese and Indian cars flow in like there's no tomorrow. South Africa's open hostility towards the United States is paramount to why we have problems today. Despite the lies about Donald Trump being the proximate cause, it's not Donald Trump. The ANC is the proximate cause. And you can look no further than the Minister of Foreign Affairs and from DIRCO, Ronald Lamola, who on CNN on the eve of the G20 summit said that Donald Trump is a white supremacist. And he lied about the refugee program, saying the refugee program is open only to Afrikaners. Simply a lie. It doesn't take much intelligence to figure out what the truth is. All you have to do is look at the U.S. Embassy website, which has said the same thing since the 10th of February, 2025. Afrikaners or racial minorities. But the truth can't help him with his pretty little lie. Now, the chickens are coming home to roost. We've already seen Senator John Kennedy come out and propose a bill against South Africa. We've seen Representative Jackson, Ronnie Jackson from Texas, propose a bill. Last year, 2 years ago now, 2024, Democrats and Republicans proposed a bill to review the relationship with South Africa and sanction South African politicians. Well, now, in response to a Wall Street Journal article about the foolish decision to invite Iran to a naval exercise, and then the even crazier foolish decision to leak to the media that they've been asked to leave, only the day later to tell everybody that they're in fact participating, only for the South African Defense Force to then remove their tweet saying they were participating, when everybody took pictures and video of them steaming out to the sea with the other ships. Now, Senator Jim Risch, Republican of Idaho, on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he's the chairman, published the following on Twitter today. South Africa's ANC-led government foreign policy hides behind a claim of non-alignment, yet its military hosts drills with America's chief adversaries. Any promise or deal this government offers Washington is meaningless when its actions signal open hostility towards the United States. President Trump is right to treat South Africa's government for what it is, an adversary of America. That is why the U.S. should take stronger action against the South African government. The time for envoys, bureaucratic reviews, or business deals bridging the gap has passed. Wow. That is the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. They have a big role in determining money for the State Department and also U.S. foreign policy. It's not Trump that's leading this charge against South Africa. It's the members of Congress who are leading the charge against the ANC-led foreign policy that undermines U.S. national security interests and that of our friends, partners, and allies. I have cautioned you. I have warned you. You've refused to listen. You are a sovereign state. You do what you like, but you will suffer the consequences. You've already given up $500 million a year in foreign aid. What a foolish decision that was. You've compromised a $20+ billion a year trade relationship where you had a surplus of $6 or $7 billion. Gone. Wiped out. You failed to send an ambassador to the United States for well over a year. The one you did send before that called America racist and our president the leader of a global white supremacy movement. Still waiting to find out the date of that initial meeting for the white supremacy movement. Nobody's told me about it. You appoint a guy who is deeply embroiled in 5 terrorism cases that led to the deaths of U.S. service members in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And your current president was a chairman of the same organization that wound up with money being funneled through the Iranians, MTN, through the Iranians, Iran cell, to terrorists who killed Americans. Cyril Ramaphosa, Nkubisi Jonas. It's not America that's been abusive towards South Africa. All we did was turn off the tap of free money. The only thing America's done that you consider aggressive towards South Africa is to tell South Africa they're not welcome at the G20 on U.S. soil. But of course, this came after the provocations of the South African government, ignoring Argentine and American representatives in the Sherpa meetings and other meetings, shutting them down every time they tried to have a discussion about the lunatic ideas that the ANC was proposing to undermine the purpose of the G20. then doxing our officials when you didn't like what they had to say, telling people who they were at these summits. And then the indignation and the bizarre behavior of South Africa when it insulted the president's personal representative, calling him a junior official, a man who has more experience in government, more experience in diplomacy than anyone in the South African government. And that's amazing given that South African ministers are leeches who spend 30 years in government and never have a job to their name. And on top of that, the violation of the Vienna Convention's raiding and diplomatic activity at Woodmead, exposing refugee aspirants to danger and their lives to danger, and threatening the United States by detaining U.S. diplomatic officials, whom the government of South Africa granted a visa to come there. When you go to this diplomat, you have to have a visa. They granted it. They let them in the country. They knew what they're up to. They knew the location. And then on a public holiday, Geloftedag, Reconciliation Day, they chose to raid Woodmead. Have they raided any other sites? No. And let's put in effect also and mention here that the South African government full well knew what RSC was doing, denied them a second visa that they were applying for. Then when they appealed it, it was denied, but the answer was sent to Nairobi to the South African High Commission, not to the people working on the refugee program in South Africa. Ridiculous. The provocations are astounding. And then inviting China, a human rights abuser, Russia, a rogue state invading its neighbors, and then Iran, a state sponsor of terrorism, which is currently murdering its citizens by the thousands, participating in a drill. This is just perfect example of South Africa's foreign policy, making friends in all the wrong places. What say you, South Africa? Cheers.